Hey everyone, welcome back to Great Sports Debates. We had a great week one. We went 5-1-2 with one to go on the games, as well as picking up our prop bets and looking pretty good on some of our season bets, like JMO over 675 yards, Barkley over 1,000 yards, Barkley over 10 touchdowns, Lamar over 600 some yards rushing. You get the drift. Anyhow, let's move into our power rankings. The initial power rankings starting week 2. And at number 32, we have a really bad team, maybe in a category by themselves. I know Giants fans, you told me your team was the worst, but no, it's the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young looked horrendous, as always. I'd really like it if all these guys that kept telling me how great Bryce Young was when he came out would come out and have the conversation now, because they've gone radio silent, tried to reverse what they said. Hey, I came out and said, hey, I'm not an expert in evaluating quarterbacks, but from what I've seen in the college games, not only is Stroud bigger with a stronger arm, but he passed the eye test, he did more with less, and he found ways to win under pressure in a lot of circumstances that Bryce Young was never in. And the part that kills me is the biggest thing that everyone tried to sell me on with Bryce Young is his accuracy. This guy throws passes way off target way too often. Like, no quarterback in this era throws more off target passes than Bryce Young. So, beyond the whole mess that they are invested in Bryce Young, they also have the fact that kudos, yes, try to improve your offensive line, but they paid way too much for mid upgrades at offensive line. And I don't know how bad the defense is, but they got shredded by the Saints. I don't know if that's a product of their offense continuously going 3 and out. But that was another pick for us. Bryce Young under 3,250 or whatever his passing number was for the season. He sucks. The Panthers suck. And I probably should have bet them under their win total too, because this is a crappy team. Okay, at 31, we got the Tennessee Titans. Now, I know some people probably don't have them quite that low, but let's go over the evidence. You downgraded your running game, and although it looks like you can still run the ball pretty good, you have a disaster at quarterback. You had a huge lead in the game wrapped up against the Chicago Bears that were not impressive and still lost that game. You had special teams blunders. You looked bad offensive, defensive, everywhere. And of course, the number one contributor is Will Levis is just not good. He's not that guy. And he's probably not going to be replaced anytime soon. Okay, at 30, I got the Denver Broncos. Yes, they have some good pieces on defense, yet their defense never plays good. Sure, part of that is an offense that's not great, that has consistently had bad quarterbacks. And I told you it was the mistake of the draft. The reach of Bo Nix was bad. I've never been a Bo Nix fan. All you guys that came at me talking about his preseason, this is exactly why I don't even care if I miss preseason games. It doesn't mean a whole lot. Most teams don't play any other starters at all. And the games don't count. So, Bo Nix looked bad. I didn't get to see too much of the game. But I definitely seen him make some bad and boneheaded plays. I've never been impressed. I don't feel like he's a guy that can throw the ball downfield consistently. And I don't think Denver's going to be good with him at quarterback. At 29, we have the New York Giants. Now, sure, maybe Giants fans, you can make a case that they could be lower. However, I didn't see too much of their game against Minnesota, probably because they were getting destroyed right from the beginning. But I can take a guess what some of the problems were. Bad offensive line, Daniel Jones, sloppy defense. Did I sum it up? Either way, they got smoked by a Vikings team that most don't expect to be that great. I got them at number 29. Okay, moving away from the basement tier, still not so great at teams. I got Washington at 28. They could be blended in with those teams, I gave them a little step above because the defensive line looked good in some of the parts of the game I watched. And their quarterback might be the best rookie, initially at least, because of his dual threat. He had some nice looking runs. But everything else with the Commanders are kind of, I don't know. They're at 28. Don't expect a whole lot from them. I guess we'll see when they play the Giants who's really the suckiest team. At 27, we got the hometown Las Vegas Raiders. And while the pairing of Wilkins and Crosby could be dominant at some point, the thing I told all my Raider fan buddies here, they always say I'm hating on the Raiders. I'm just telling the truth. Minshew is a mild step up from the people they've had playing at quarterback. But when you got O'Connell and all these guys, and you got a problem at quarterback, and you got a problem at offensive line, and you draft a tight end, I don't care how good the tight end is, it just shows an organization that doesn't understand football. I like their coach, but he can only do so much. With a bad O-line and a quarterback that scares me, you're going to be near the bottom of the league. At number 26, we have the New England Patriots. Now, Patriots fans, before you come for me, if you disagree, just let me know in the comments section. I get it, you're 1-0. I get it, you beat Cincinnati, and it looks like you ran the ball well. But I did say, when I did pick them to lose this game, I had the Patriots scoring 15. They scored 16. I said they probably can't score over 17. So, all of that remains true. I'm not impressed by the quarterback situation. I don't even know half the people on your dang offense. You lost a couple of key players on defense. However, based on the score of that game, I didn't get to see a whole lot of it. It looks like they played defense pretty well. I don't know if that's good defense or Joe Burrow just looking terrible week 1, which he does some reason all the time. Dude, you make a ton of money. Can you not be ready for week 1? But we'll get into Cincinnati later. I can't have New England higher than 26. They're going to have to show me more. At 25, we got those Chicago Bears we talked about. Again, another 1-0 team by the bottom of the rankings. Just hear me out. Caleb was terrible. He was missing passes like he was Bryce Young. And even though he made a few key plays at the end, it was the defense that pulled through. And Chicago had to get really lucky to win this game. They got the pick six. They got the special teams play. And even though I'm saying that their defense is pretty good, you still got a lot of points scored on you by Tennessee. So, Chicago, you're in the basement of the NFC North, and I don't think you're getting out of there. Bears fans, be quiet. All right, number 24. Again, didn't watch much of the Seattle game like I mentioned with Denver. They're two really boring teams. Geno has proven he can do it, but I don't trust him consistently. This might be too low for the Seahawks, but I don't have high expectations for them. They're in a tough division, and I just don't think they're a playoff team. Whether they move up from 24 or not, I think is kind of irrelevant. They're not going to be a factor this year, in my opinion. At number 23, we got the LA Chargers. I think Joe Alt has done enough to prove he was the right pick, but the offense still has issues. You let a lot of your playmakers go. Justin Herbert hasn't shown he's like a Josh Allen guy that can do it with anybody. And when I talked about picking the Chargers over the Raiders, despite what everyone was saying, it had more to do with the Raiders than it did with the Chargers. So, Chargers won. Didn't look great. Not impressed. Number 23. At number 22, we got the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson's going to have to play average, or Cleveland's in trouble. He also had some wild throws. He did this last year as well. And I know even when he was in Houston, he wasn't hyper accurate, but he looked a lot better than this. The dual threat ability is completely gone at this point. I mean, he did manage to run out of a couple of things, but he just looks so bad. And I don't think it's something that's going to change at this point. He was bad last year too. I don't think Cleveland's defense is good enough to bail them out into being one of the better teams, no matter how good it is. because the offense, like, just tell me who's going to do anything on that offense. I'm waiting. At 21, we got the Arizona Cardinals. Murray was back throwing and running the ball, making good big plays. They had Buffalo on the ropes. Thank you for that, by the way. I was about to get Buffalo for close to even money when they were down 10-0. But they still blew the game. The defense gave up too many points. And the big thing that we said we needed for Murray was weapons. Where was Marvin Harrison Jr.? Now, I'm not saying he's not going to come on. We expect big things from him. But for him to be as invisible as he was week 1 is definitely a concern. Speaking of concerns, at number 20, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. The offense starts slow again. I can't figure this team out. If you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, if you watch the Bengals on the regular, can you please help me break down this team? Because they don't make any sense to me. But they do keep making, like every year they lose a few guys that go under the radar. I mean, this year they lost DJ Reader. They've lost Mixon. They've lost all these guys that, don't make the news, but they're actually key players. And I think the Reader being missing showed the way the Patriots were able to run the ball with them at ease. They better hope that's just a 1 week problem. Because if everyone can run the ball like them like that, they're going to be one of the worst teams. All right, number 19, the most disappointing team in my opinion, the Atlanta Falcons, who also caused us our only betting loss this week. Very disappointing. Why would they not put help on TJ Watt? TJ Watt literally changed this game. The O-line and Kirk Cousins played way below expectations. And I don't understand why you don't just put a tight end over there. We're going to talk about Watt later when we get to Pittsburgh. But Atlanta's offensive line needs to improve. They need to be a run-first team. Pound the ball with Bijan like they did last year. And just expect Kirk Cousins to be a much better version for play-action passing. But, again, Atlanta looked not good week 1. Number 18, I got the Indianapolis Colts. They kept it closer than I expected against Houston. AR showed what we've already known about him. He's got a cannon. He can run. It's going to have him in the mix against some better teams. But he's not very accurate or consistent on some of these easier throws. And I think that's where they're going to lose some games to lesser teams. I'm seeing a team around 500. That's why we got the Colts at number 18. Okay, at 17, we got the Saints. Carr looked great. He's another guy we can't figure out. But it kind of goes as we said before. If you give this guy time, he can play pretty good sometimes. But I don't want to give the Saints too much credit despite having the biggest win in week 1 because it was against the Carolina Panthers. And I just want to mention something. You know who you are. People that were trying to convince me not to take the Saints -4. Talking about betting on this Carolina straight up money line. I hope you got your meds this week. Carolina sucks. We got to remember that. No matter how bad you think the Saints are, Carolina sucks. And they're going to be a team we target this year. At number 16, we're moving into some of the better teams. Some of the teams I think could be playoff teams. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't get why so many people are always downgrading Baker Mayfield. I understand that guys that don't have elite traits or a big arm are consistently underrated. But I said in my pod this offseason, if you count out all the starters in the NFL, he's probably an above average guy for you. But nobody talks about him that way. And if you look at his production and what he's done recently, it's probably, I haven't looked at it, I'm guessing it's at least top 10 numbers. So Baker did what he was supposed to do, and they beat down a Washington team. This is a team that could contend for that division that they won last year. They could make the playoffs again, and depending on the matchup, even possibly win a game. At 15, I got the Green Bay Packers. This might be too low, but we got to remember, Love is out. I'm curious to see how well they do with him out because it looks like they got a strong offensive line. It looks like they're able to run the ball, and they have some key pieces on defense. This will be an interesting test. They're a 3-point dog against the Colts this week. At 14, I got the Vikings. I'm sure that's higher than most people have them, but they did get a big game win on the road. I still don't trust Sam Darnold, but he did show what he can do when he has some time. And we have to remember, he probably hasn't had an opportunity like this before. Minnesota also had a lot of good pickups this offseason. Jones is one of many that looks to be paying off. Moving on to number 13, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a team I constantly underrate. Steelers fans always come for me, and you're probably right. But can you blame me? Watch that ugly offense. They look like a bottom-tier team. And I just got to remember how impactful their defense is. Anytime I want to bet against Pittsburgh, I got to just say the words T.J. Watt. Because this guy's a game wrecker. And there's not a single defensive player in the league that you could go back through looking at this week and last year and find more games he is single-handedly won from big plays, turnovers, and just total disruption. The dude's a dog. At number 12, we got the New York Jets. Now this one's a little tougher because we haven't seen the Jets play yet. We know the defense is completely legit. The question is going to be the offense. Can Aaron Rodgers elevate this offense despite the time off he's had, despite his age, and despite what they're probably still going to have is offensive line problems? This game tonight is going to be a big test against San Francisco. At number 11, we got Jacksonville. They were one bad fumble away from beating Miami on the road. They're a tough team. I'm not sold on Lawrence, but they got a strong offensive line. They got a really tough defense up front. So they have all the pieces. They have all the ingredients. Lawrence is going to make that leap from pretty good to really good, slightly great category if they're going to make any noise this year, though. And I'm not sure I'm going to bet on that at this point. Speaking of Miami, we got them at number 10. The offensive line and defensive losses are what I said in the offseason scared me a little bit. But they still got it done. They still won week 1. They still have Tua, and they still have speed everywhere. And you know that boy, Tyreek Hill, who we got that season bet on, performed, dropping 130 yards. So as long as they can continue to do that, they could be the team to beat in that division. But first, they're going to have to finally beat the team we got at number 9, the Buffalo Bills. That's their week 2 matchup. They haven't played good against Buffalo previously. Josh Allen, we know, can make it happen with his feet and his arms, no matter who's out there with him on the offense. And until they beat Buffalo, we're going to have them slated ahead. But I'll say right now, Buffalo's defense is going to have to play better. And Buffalo's going to have to figure out who their playmakers are on offense. At number 8, we got the LA Rams. And if I'm being honest, I really wanted to put the Rams higher. Nobody played like Stafford in week 1. And I even had this conversation during this game. The Stafford hate, I just don't understand. People tried to laugh when I talked about him as a top 10 quarterback in the offseason. Not at this point, not ever, blah, blah, blah. Let's just look at the evidence. Like I said, nobody played like him week 1. He was ranked 5th last season by PFF. A couple years ago, he was one of the best quarterbacks, and they won the Super Bowl. So people need to remember. Actually, I'm happy if they don't remember, because we made a lot of money on the Rams and people disrespecting them last year. So I don't care if you don't remember. But if you're subscribed, I need you to remember, if the Rams offensive line can hold up and Matt Stafford stays healthy, he's going to shred some defenses. He has all the physical tools, and he's finally learning how to play the position. He is a tough guy to beat, especially when he's clicking and comfortable. At number 7, we got Philly. I really wasn't impressed, but they did win as we predicted. I think if they play more of a run-first type of game, they could be one of those contenders. We did see some signs, especially on some short yardage plays, where they missed Kelsey for sure. But if they try to put it all on Jalen Hurts, he is not that guy, and they are going to drop in the power rankings. All right, moving into our top 6. These are teams that I think all have a shot to go all the way. Obviously, some more than others. At 6, we got Houston. Their Week 1 game was closer than we expected. Luckily, we made that bet months before the season and got them at -2. So it was a push instead of a loss. And I can't be too mad because CJ was lights out. Mixon shined. I think he was the top rusher in Week 1. And I expect more from the defense from Houston, though. So I got them at 6 right now. They won Week 1. Let's see if they can keep it rolling. At number 5, I got the Dallas Cowboys. Part of me wanted to move them up even a little more because they did destroy Cleveland. But we talked about how the Browns couldn't go downfield. I also want to remind people, Dak had some bad throws. He had some way off target throws. He had a couple of dangerous throws where CD kind of saved him, and a couple that could have been intercepted. So no one's going to talk about that because Dallas killed Cleveland. But they can run the ball. They have a super playmaker in Micah on the defense. And then the Kendrick signing seemed to pay off. I want to say he had 2 sacks and an interception. So, despite his age, he's still playing at an elite level, at least for Week 1. I got the Cowboys at 5. We'll see what they do in the weeks to follow. At 4, I got the Baltimore Ravens. Don't come at me that they're 0-1 unless you're willing to bet against them in the upcoming weeks, because I think they're going to be favored in most of their games. My concern was their offensive line, so that's why I bet against them Week 1, and they definitely made me sweat it. But with Lamar's mobility, it didn't matter too much. And, I've said before, he probably wasn't the guy I would have voted for either of his MVP seasons. People have to stop trying to focus on he's not an elite passer. Yeah, he's not necessarily the most accurate, but he can make throws, and his running ability is part of him playing quarterback. So it's not just the yards he rushes for. It's the guys that get open and the way defenses have to play because of his rushing ability. So Baltimore, if their offensive line winds up being solid, could be one of those top teams again this year. Okay, at number 3, I got Detroit. Before you call me a homer, I know they had to go to overtime, and the defense was not looking good at all. We have to remember this is a team that has probably the best offensive line in the league. And they showed that they could pass and run the ball. Their offense wasn't clicking Week 1. St. Brown was invisible, and the defense was too soft, yet they still won the game. Now, I told you in the offseason, J-Mo was going to be my biggest bet. We bet thousands on him going over 675 yards this year. Look how close he already is to that number in 1 week. So, a lot of weapons. And we didn't even talk about Laporta and the lesser-known guys like Wright and speedsters like Khalif Raymond. Loaded backfield. The offense should be able to do whatever they want. They should be able to find a way to put up points against any team. It's a matter if Hutchinson and Anzalone and those guys can be playmakers enough to not be completely horrendous on defense. At number 2 is San Francisco. I know they haven't played yet, but they're stacked everywhere. They were just in the Super Bowl last year. Even if Ayuk's out, I feel like they got lots of options with Kittle, who some could argue is still one of the best tight ends in the game. You still got Debo. And, of course, you got CMC that can run. He can catch. He can do it all. They still got some studs on the offensive line like Trent Williams. And, of course, their defense has playmakers all over the place. So, for now, we got the 49ers at number 2. And on top of the list, who else could I pick besides Kansas City? Sure, they might not be the dominant number 1 team, head and shoulders above everyone, but they've won the last 2 Super Bowls. They got the best quarterback. They solved, I don't want to say solved, but the biggest area of concern, in my opinion, wide receiver, Rice stepped up, and Worthy looks like he's electric. So they can run, and they got playmakers at every level on the defense. This is going to be a tough team to beat any week. They're going to be number 1 until somebody else proves otherwise. So that's our list from 32 to 1. If you disagree, agree, let me know in the comments section. We'll talk it out. If you like the video, please drop a like, subscribe. It helps the channel. It motivates me to get up and do this. And as always, thanks for watching.